Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA, Talk 1580, download the app.
Jesse Jackson Jr., welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. It's Moving Mountain Mondays on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. We are here on the 405, the 101, the 5, the 10, the 118, and the 110 with our regular professor, Ernest Krim, an Emmy-nominated producer, public teacher, anti-racist educator, and hate crime victor who uses Black historical narratives to empower and educate through a culturally equitable lens. I'm particularly honored that Ernest is our regular contributor on Mondays. He gets our days and our weeks started off correctly. Last week, we began a conversation, Ernest, talking about the graduating classes of 2026. If you graduated from the 8th grade, you were probably born in 2012. That's what most 14-year-olds were born in who graduated in the 8th grade. If you're graduating from high school in 2026, you were probably born in 2008. Hope and the optimism of the election of Barack Obama as president of the United States. And if you just received your baccalaureate degree in 2004, history will look back upon that date, the hour of that graduating class or this graduating class births, and recognize that they are the bridge between Second Reconstruction and some kind of new Jim Crow. I mean, Gavin Newsom is saying it. For some people, Gavin Newsom has to say it for it to be true. Even though Tavis Smiley, Cornel West, Reverend William Barber, Reverend Jesse Jackson, the late Reverend Jackson, Reverend Sharpton, myself, and many others have been suggesting that our non-participation in voting is a factor in what could bring an end to Second Reconstruction. Of course, Second Reconstruction beginning at the end of First Jim Crow in 1954 with the Brown versus the Board of Education decision. And because last week we were discussing and talking about students who are graduating in 2026, we tried to contextualize their lives for the hope and optimism, the expectations that they had coming into the world, with the expectations of entering the private sector, the public sector, etc., and to see so much so quickly coming to an end. Bakari Sellers probably said it best. We're going to be the first generation since 1954 of African Americans who simply will not do better than our parents did. And that, of course, is deeply troubling. Ernest Krim, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show in Mr. Krim's classroom.
Thanks again for having me, brother. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Ernest, will you be kind enough to introduce our guest, Devon Cameron?
Yeah, this is something I'm very proud of. Devon Cameron was a student of mine in the Chicago area when I taught at Joliet Central. I had Devon, I would say, all 4 years, and some might be asking, how was I able to do that? Well, Devon took my class, and he signed up for an elective. I taught U.S. history, which then became African and Latin studies, but then also he was a member of our Black Student Union, and he was the leader in that organization for all 4 years. So he always had a perspective of understanding how important it was to do great academically, but also to get involved in different programs in a leadership capacity. He went on to go to Illinois State University, and he just graduated. And I'm so proud. Yeah, man. Round of applause for that. This brother just graduated, and he's now about to pursue his master's program as well. So he's continuing on this journey. And again, with everything that he's doing, he's always putting community first, because with that as well, he's the founder and president of Clothes for Kizzy. And I'll let him describe some more about the amazing work he's doing with that organization and what he's doing in school.
Devon, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. We're honored to have you as our guest.
Hello, nice to meet you as well. Thank you for having me on here. I feel honored being in the presence of you and Mr. Krim as always. And thank you all for having me on.
Devon, let me begin with the first question. We have about 2 minutes for a response, and then we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580. That means we're going to our break. Devon, so much hope and optimism in about 2004, 2003, maybe when you were born. You paid your dues. You've gone to college. You're graduating, nearing the top, if not at the very top of your class. You were a research assistant, and at this moment, as you prepare to attend and receive your go to graduate school for your master's degree, so much is changing so quickly on the political landscape as well as the social and educational landscape. How do you confront a recent graduate with the future being, I'd like to say, less optimistic, but of course, optimistic expectations that you had when you were entering this process?
Thank you for that. I do feel as if there is heavy weight on my heart for expectations of us, not only myself, but the class of 2026 and ones before and the ones that come after us as well. I feel like being as a Black grad, I felt the pressure to excel twice as hard or as my predecessors or people in the same class as me that might not look exactly like me or compared to the same experiences and life examples that we've had, and which is not meant for it to be, but this is a reality that we do have to live in. With some social issues that do come with that is the rollbacks of DEI initiatives, and that makes it more harder for us to actually go to school for the ones that don't have a leg up on financial or experiences done and being said. That's why it's most important to have young Black grads be focal points of the political landscape and go out there and vote and then make sure that they're activists for the things that matter to them, and not only for them, but the community as well.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. We're in Mr. Krim's classroom. Our very special guest is Devon Cameron, a recent graduate of college and an extraordinary student. He's entering a brand new world, and so are all of our children in 2026. We're going to explore that in this hour on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. More on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, host of The Voice of Reason, weeknights at 7 p.m. here on KBLA Talk 1580, with a personal invitation for you to join me and Insight.me as we present The Healing Box, live at Inglewood's world-famous Miracle Theater, Saturday evening, May 23rd at 7 p.m. Look, I understand your attachment style has been running your life like a rogue algorithm, and nobody has had the courage to press pause. Until now, Dr. Pakoya McCall and yours truly are curating a night where clinicians, spiritualists, and an all-star panel of Black woman healers like Dr. Shalonda Sunshine Crawford, Dr. Jashana Johnson, and spiritualist Precious McGill will join some amazing spoken word artists and the legendary comedian Louis Dix to diagnose, disrupt, and heal your relational wreckage in real time. Listen, bring your trauma. As a matter of fact, bring your baby mama. No, bring your testimony. And if you're still texting your ex at 2 a.m., baby, you're not just invited, you're the target demo. Tickets are moving fast, so grab yours at themiracleinglewood.com before your dating history gets flagged as a pre-existing condition. That's themiracleinglewood.com. We'll see you there Saturday, May 23rd at 7 p.m.
On top of home and auto, Progressive protects your boat, RV, and motorcycle so you can explore the unknown.
Actually, we just take the RV to the same campground every year.
Well, maybe you can catch your own dinner on your boat.
Oh, we can actually get pizza delivered there from this brick oven place we love.
Will you at least try a new topping?
Honestly, probably not. We kind of have a go-to order.
Fine. Just bundle home or auto insurance with your outdoor vehicles with Progressive and stay protected when you go, I guess, where you've gone before. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Not available in all states or situations.
The joint will be jumping. Ebony Repertory Theater, in association with Big Street Films, brings you one of the most beloved musicals of all time. Tony Award winner, Ain't Misbehavin'. The soulful, swinging celebration of the music of Fats Waller. From the rollicking to the romantic, this show is pure magic, full of the songs that defined an era and the voices that'll make you forget everything else for a night. Foot-stomping, heart-stirring, unforgettable. Don't miss Ain't Misbehavin' at the Nate Holden Performing Arts Center, starring Lettucey, directed by Ren T. Brown. This is the night out you've been waiting for. Tickets are going fast, so don't wait. Grab yours now at ebonyrep.org or call the box office today at 323-964-9766. Ebony Repertory Theater, bringing the culture, keeping the legacy alive.
Ain't Misbehavin' runs May 21st through June 8th at the Nate Holden Performing Arts Center. Get your tickets now.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Quality drops the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download that.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. It's Moving Mountain Mondays on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show, and therefore we are in Mr. Krim's classroom in our first hour of the week. Ernest, you brought a wonderful guest, very capable, very qualified student, recently graduate of Illinois State University, Devon Cameron. Ernest, let's talk with our guest.
Yes, indeed. And thanks again for even, I would say, giving him the platform. I think this is such an amazing opportunity for us to truly gain a grasp of what's going on in the minds of our recent grads. Welcome forward, Devon.
Hi again. Thank you all for having me once again.
Let me jump right in. Devon, listen, I think that, the hopes and expectations when I was in college was that I was going to business school, and I walked around campus with a number of my friends. We all carried briefcases because we wanted an MBA. We had expectations of entering a world where we did not see ourselves as affirmative action recipients. We did not see ourselves as diversity, equity, and inclusion candidates for graduate school or for getting employment. We saw ourselves as qualified summa cum laude, magna cum laude, and O laude graduates entering into the workforce for the first time. And increasingly on our program, we've had surgeons, medical professionals, lawyers, doctors, and many other professions where almost every single one of them have shared what it means to be a minority in a majority experience. That is, many of their colleagues look upon them like they are not qualified to do the work. I can't imagine that the class of 2026 at any point in time in your formative education experience ever thought of yourself as not qualified to undertake the tasks that are in front of you. And yet, from the lack of support from the government, increasingly capitulating private sector companies, they are looking at us fundamentally different. My father once said that as an African American, we have to be superior just to be equal. Are you finding that to be the case, Devon?
Totally understandable, and I do find that to be the case because once upon a time, I have been told that I have to work twice as hard to be as equal or even be considered for a position or to be considered equal to my other counterparts. And I feel like that shouldn't be the case because throughout history, like leaders in like Malcolm X, your own father, Jesse Jackson Jr., has paved the way for us to be known for our academic success and going forth in stretches of times where we might have felt burnt out, we might have felt the anxiety of the pressure being held upon us to be around the achievements that others have held. But the pressure is always on us to be with a smile on our face, to be that token Black person, which you do not have to be. You do not have to live up to these unattainable expectations that others do not live themselves up to as well. To be yourself truly in the class of 2026 is being the best possible person that you can be and the one that for the ones that surround you as well. And that's those standards that I hold myself and my friends and family up to as well.
Ernest, I love Devon's spirit. I love his fortitude. I love his integrity, and I love the stamina and the resilience and persistence that his very life represents. But he said something right there that was really interesting to me. That is, as an African American navigating both the academic and the private sector space, we have to have a smile on our face. And that concerns me, that we have to be perceived as non-threatening, that we have to be perceived as somewhat servile, if you will, in our approach to the opportunities, not because we're not qualified, but simply because we are walking on eggshells from the very day that we graduate and from the very day that we enter into adulthood. Ernest?
Yeah, and I think that you'll find, as someone who attended a PWI, all three of us, in fact, at some point in our academic careers, attended that. You go from a space, in particular, if you're coming from, like a Chicago or where Devon was in Joliet, which was primarily Latino and Black, and then you go to a space in central Illinois or, anywhere in the middle of, in a rural community in whatever state it could be, whether it be California or otherwise, you become a minority under a different capacity, because now it's not just maybe your 10, 20, 30%. It's you are a minority of a minority because you had to go through insurmountable odds just to get to that space in academia. And whether these young folks know it or not, they become the proof of what W.E.B. Du Bois talked about with that double consciousness, because we understand that when we're here, yeah, we want to succeed for our immediate family, but there's the burden of we're trying to also succeed for our community. And when we step into that space, look, I only had Black professors because I took Black studies and Black history. But in every other course, I don't think we mentioned like this brother got a degree in biology. So imagine when you keep in mind that, we are underrepresented in science courses and medicine. I mean, I would imagine, Yvonne, that most often you were the only Black student in that course. And I wonder what that meant for you. But then I also wonder, as we begin to change course a little bit too, is like what your experience was like over those 4 years as we saw this president take power and probably for you shift the entire demographics of your college population.
Yes, it did. I truly feel, well, to answer your first question, I was one of few select 4 kids that were African American or African in my cohort coming into classes like biology and then going into chemistry and physics as well. And then there's a plethora of other science courses as well. And it's kind of like we grew a relationship close knit together so that we can also not only be the only ones studying with each other. Because in most cases, a lot of the other kids or a lot of my other cohorts didn't want to study, or they had their groups and cliques and they wouldn't want to pretty much break that or add upon it. So having that healthy relationship with my classmates was a blessing upon itself. And then going about that, it does feel as if once the president now came into office, that the social or political shift of emotion was shown on campus with I can't think of the name right now, but with the rally of Charlie Kirk coming on ISU campus, it was a shift of racial ambiguity coming towards African Americans or pretty much minorities on campus that could be felt throughout the campus. Now, we did show activism through social media and even on feet marching, saying that this should not be allowed. But the university did let that be known that any organization that a student ran can and have the ability to voice their own opinions due to freedom of speech. But with that being said, I do feel as if being underrepresented in those spaces only puts more pressure on us to be the one that is the pioneer or the gateway or the key to lead forward more of the kids in the next generation, to know that there's people that look like you and there's people that have done the same things that you want to accomplish, and your dreams are not out of reach. And that's what I stand for.
Cameron, I pay taxes, and you will too, and so does Ernest, to the state of Illinois. Our taxes make Illinois State University possible. They make the University of Illinois in Champaign-Urbana possible. We fund state schools. African Americans represent a significant percentage, albeit most of it in the northeastern part of the state in Cook County, of the state of Illinois' population. The idea that for schools that we pay taxes into, that the population of the student body itself from our state is not representative of the people who are paying taxes into the school, graduating from our high schools in the city of Chicago, in Peoria, our high schools in Joliet, Illinois, our high schools in Kankakee, Illinois. Ernest, these are schools that Brown versus the Board of Education desegregated, that allowed us to attend high school for the first time in the state of Illinois since 1954. And then we're being told that when we graduate from the high school to go to a college where we pay taxes, God bless the late Charlie Kirk, but to come to our campus and create racial animus and he's not an Illinois taxpayer, would be the same thing of anyone doing it, for example, at UCLA or University of Southern California, where students and their parents are paying taxes into the California system to deny them access to those institutions. I find that profoundly troubling, Ernest.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. And I didn't know that prior to having this conversation with Devon that Charlie Kirk even came there. And I think what's interesting is we're caught between this conundrum of sorts, I guess. It's like this is a place of higher education, higher learning, where you're supposed to learn from different perspectives and points of views. But from my perspective and point of view, his was a toxic one that didn't necessarily really belong on the college campus because of the high amount of conjecture and so on and so forth. And I would be interested in learning too, just how many students organize against that. But I also think was even also interesting as well, as you talk about that in Illinois, that same issue is clear for our residents listening in California right now, as the population of Black folks at UCLA or USC hovers around about 4 to 5%. And when you go to these schools and these admissions office and talk about that, you even have to, disaggregate that even further for how many of these students come from those who were enslaved in this country, right? And fought for these things. And we are sorely misrepresented. And like you said, we're still paying for educational institutions that misrepresent us and in many ways miseducate us as well.
I'm struck by that, because even in the education space, that's not completely the political space, but these schools are political creatures of a political process. And so when you look at the attack on DEI, when you look at the attack on affirmative action, when you look at the attack on majority minority congressional districts, you can only imagine that the admissions of state-funded schools, I'm not talking about private schools at this point, I'm talking about state-funded schools. What will be the application of the law and the trends of the court with respect to states that we pay taxes to, or institutions in states, public hospitals, the right to have doctors and nurses in our communities, and the location of the physical structure of doctors, nurses, and hospitals in our communities, in rural areas as well, health clinics and hospitals, high trauma centers, so that people don't have to drive 45 minutes to an hour in the event of a traumatic accident or a life-threatening response, or where ambulances have to drive for an hour to deliver a patient to an emergency room, which happens more often than not in rural areas. Ernest, America is far from an equal system. It is still profoundly divided by not only race, but by geography, by class, by sex, and so many of the other isms. Ernest?
I love where this conversation is headed, because I don't think that we often consider the fact that our public institutions are supposed to serve us as people. And when I say public institution, I mean the public educational system. Usually this conversation is narrowed down to a politician, like somebody whose job is explicitly for this. But when we think about our public education systems, whether from kindergarten on through, and then our state universities, if we are still having the same issues, then these institutions, in this sense, are functioning as a mechanism to maintain the status quo. And this is something we need to further investigate, because as these problems continue to get worse, going back to this topic, what are we preparing our students, young adults, to do when they enter the workforce if there aren't any skills they're attaining that are applicable to the current problems we have in real time, in fact?
I am profoundly troubled by what we have been hearing, and I think it runs in the face of people like Devon Cameron who've spent so much of their time with so much hope and so much expectations for what they could do, for the contributions that they could make, to essentially have the doors slammed directly in their faces and be told that no matter how much you struggled, no matter how much you worked, the moment that you have broken away from your parents in this process, you're now 18 years old, you go to college, you're away from home, you decide to put the work in, you end up with the kind of qualifications of a Devon Cameron, only to be told that the doors of opportunity are in fact closing in your face. And again, as Makari said, we are going to be the first generation of African Americans, Devon's generation, who may or may not be able to do better than their parents. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. It's Moving Mountain Mondays. It's Classroom when we come forward right here at KBLA.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Americans are protesting for voting rights in Selma, Alabama, amid Republican efforts to eliminate Democratic majority black districts across the South.
You see, we have seen this before, where some people in black robes try to deny or take away our rights.
A rally was also held in Montgomery with Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Black Senator Cory Booker among those attending. Louisiana's proposed new congressional map is now headed to the House after passing the state Senate 27-10. The map would give Republicans a 5-1 edge in the delegation and eliminate one of the state's 2 majority black districts. And the League of Women Voters is joining other civil rights groups in suing over Tennessee's new congressional map. The lawsuit says the map fractures Memphis' only majority black congressional district for partisan and racial gain and was rushed through with little public input. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Recall 67A mobile appointments are now available in your area. We come to you quick, easy, and under an hour. Complete the recall to get $500 plus a warranty worth thousands. Schedule today at CumminsRecall.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The voting for the NBA Most Valuable Player Award should be another wake-up call for American basketball players. International players are dominating the NBA and are no longer on a different level than American players. They have caught up and in some cases have passed up the U.S., which for decades had a patent on developing the best basketball players in the world. Oklahoma City star Shai Gilgeous-Alexander of Canada was voted MVP for the 2025-26 season. The top 4 vote-getters were international players: Denver's Nikola Jokic of Serbia, San Antonio's Victor Wembanyama of France, and Lakers star Luka Doncic of Slovenia. Doncic finished the season leading the NBA in scoring. The past 8 NBA MVPs are international players. It's time for high school, AAU, and college coaches to figure out what they're not doing to keep up with the international game. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Turn the dial to where the truth lives. This is KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
My name is Cynthia Mitchell. I've been an emergency room nurse in Los Angeles County for 25 years. I've been there through every fire season, every outbreak, every earthquake. Every time Los Angeles needed us, the doctors and nurses of Los Angeles County showed up. And right now, I'm seeing another disaster coming. Trump's cuts to Los Angeles County's healthcare system are a public health crisis in the making. Medi-Cal, public hospitals, disaster preparedness are all at risk, but we can stop it. Measure ER fights back against these cuts. For a half a penny, we keep emergency rooms open, care within reach for working families, and doctors and nurses serving the communities we love. When you vote yes on Measure ER, you're not just voting for health care, you're voting for LA. Vote yes on Measure ER by June 2nd.
Ad paid for by Yes on ER, Restore Healthcare for Angelinos, sponsored by St. John's Community Health and Health Justice Action Fund. Ad committee top funder, St. John's Community Health.
Hi, I'm Fred Martin, founder of Compton Kids Club. I just want to talk about the authenticity and tell y'all about my homeboy, Tom Steyer. Tom is a rock star. When I met him, Tom gave a grant to schools in San Francisco. All the kids were on probation. We were flying instructors for 2 years to come and help those kids doing performing arts and turning their life around. Some of the kids that he supported, they've graduated from UCLA. Let's fast forward. Tom is in schools in Compton, hanging out with the kids in the piano classes. Brother Tom Steyer hangs out in the studio with us. These are the seeds that he's planted. This has nothing to do with elections. What's coming out of his mouth is not a campaign speech. It's authentic. And when he say he walks away from a business because he want to do his values, he ain't making that up because he's running for governor. This man is real.
Ad paid for by Steyer for Governor 2026.
Lots of places can expose you to identity theft.
Oh no.
That's why LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second for threats to your identity, which is way more than anyone can do on their own. If we find anything suspicious, like new loans or changes to your financial accounts, we alert you right away, all through text, phone, email, or the LifeLock app. Get the alerts that could make all the difference. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code NEWS at LifeLock.com. Terms apply.
There's a lot of uncertainty in the world right now. Things are changing fast and no one knows what comes next. Times like these make you realize just how important it is to be prepared. That's where My Patriot Supply comes in. They're America's #1 most trusted resource for survival food, solar power, water filtration systems, and more. Go to preparewithamerica.com to unlock a special offer that'll help you get ready for whatever comes our way. Go to preparewithamerica.com to see the special offer right now. That's preparewithamerica.com.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Folly, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. We are in Mr. Krim's classroom with a former student of Mr. Krim, Mr. Devon Cameron. And just before I bring our guests forward, on this day, May 18th, 1896, the Supreme Court's decision in Plessy versus Ferguson stands as one of the most consequential and damaging rulings in American legal history. Decided in 1896, the case centered on Homer Plessy, a mixed-race resident of Louisiana, who intentionally violated the state's separate car by sitting in a whites-only railroad car. His arrest was part of a carefully organized legal challenge designed to contest segregation laws. In a 7-1 ruling, the Supreme Court upheld the constitutionality of racial segregation, establishing the doctrine of separate but equal. The court argued that segregated facilities did not violate the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment as long as accommodations were purportedly equal. In practice, however, facilities and service provided to Black Americans were overwhelmingly inferior. The decision gave legitimacy to Jim Crow segregation across the South and beyond, reinforcing systems of racial discrimination in schools, transportation, housing, public accommodations, and civic life. For decades, Plessy versus Ferguson served as the constitutional foundation for segregation and disenfranchisement, and officially, with hindsight, began first Jim Crow. Justice John Marshall Harlan issued the lone dissent declaring the Constitution is colorblind and warning that the ruling would become as destructive as infamous Dred Scott decision. That destructive. His dissent later became a foundational argument for future civil rights litigation, The ruling remained in effect until it was effectively overturned by Brown versus the Board of Education in 1954, making Plessy a defining symbol of legalized racial inequality in America. Brown versus the Board of Education, that decision, May 17th, 1954, was decided yesterday. And the best and brightest, nearly 100 years later, after the Plessy decision, which was infamous as Dred Scott, the Brown versus the Board of Education decision, the fruit of Brown versus the Board of Education are represented by Professor Ernest Krim and Devon Cameron, the very best that we've been able to produce at this moment in American history, stony the road we trod. Mr. Krim, welcome forward to your classroom.
Thanks again for having me, brother, and thank you for providing that necessary historical context.
That's the context of Devon entering public life, entering the world, entering the private sector, making his contribution. The striking down of Plessy versus Ferguson, the addition of Brown versus the Board of Education to a new interpretation of the Equal Protection Clause, and it forced Illinois State University, the University of Illinois, to desegregate, giving Brother Cameron the opportunity to receive his BS in general biology, minoring in psychology, and the founder and president of Clothes for Kissy. Devon, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thank you.
You know, Ernest, in this moment, I'm thinking we could take that intro right there and give it to any African American, any Hispanic, any Asian student in the United States, any Native American student in the United States since 1954 has been the overwhelming beneficiary of the end of the separate and unequal doctrine. Ernest?
Yeah, I mean, it speaks to why we have to continue to be engaged. I think it also speaks to many of the flaws that exist in our system. I think also, too, about the importance of us being sure to continue to agitate, because when we think about why they even wanted to initially segregate in the 1800s, it came on the backs as a response to our success post-enslavement, right? Just like today, we're seeing this response in regards to the success of Barack Obama being elected, right? And it becomes so dangerous in this system because when you segregate politically, you're also segregating resources that we are owed. You're segregating our tax dollars and our money. So it's never just about, it's not about what people would assume, like you want to sit next to somebody that looks different. It's about make sure that our funding, what we have worked for, is being provided equitably. And it's on the backs of people like that we have been able to get an opportunity to receive a just education and get back to our community.
I'm struck by that. Devon, share with us a little about your family, a little bit about your upbringing, and how you ended up and decided to pursue a course or career in biology.
Yes, thank you. My family are Chicago Mississippians. I am adopted. My adopted mom is from Pickens, Mississippi. She came up in her 20s to Joliet, Illinois to find better in the North, facing segregation and the redlining and pretty much the hate that was spewed onto her community from natives of the southern communities. So with that being said, she always was a parent of the community, watching other people's kids, doing what she could for hers and others as well, and hosting some of the best memories that I have today and for others, such as Thanksgiving parties or Thanksgiving dinners for our families and friends. And then my aunt as well, both of them rest in peace, also hosting Christmas events as well, giving back to whoever and anyone that she did love, not even if she knew you, not even if they knew each other, had connections from years and decades ago to just meeting you that year. They both showed much amount of love throughout their church and their spirituality coming across. Now, talking more about my mom, she is a mother of 6 children, 4 of them being adopted, including me, and she spewed endless and unconditional amount of love into all of us. And I will always be forever grateful for the sacrifices that she did for us, nevertheless myself. I am accompanied by my sister, John Cameron, and then my godparents, Elise Cochran and Dr. Dale Cochran as well. So with that being said, I do have an amazing support system that I love and care about, and they've spewed endless amount of love into me, and such forth as my mentor, Mr. Grimm. And the reason why I'm able to even be the founder and president of Close for Kizzy and the plethora of everything else I am on executive boards, such as the Moja Graduation Committee for Black students at Illinois State University, being in an undergrad chemistry research, being in a position in the lab under my Black professor, Dr. Sean Hitchcock at Illinois State University, and then also being a part of the Prudential Association and a plethora of other things such as Black Caucus Association. I have to give back to the ones that have served me in the best way possible.
Your mother sounds like a remarkable woman. Now, you just graduated, so that puts you around 21, 22 years old?
Yes, I'm 22.
Okay, so that would be 2004, 2003?
2003.
2003. So, so your mother came from Mississippi. How old were you when you were adopted?
I was actually, if I remember the story that my sister had told me, I was about a week or newborn, so around, fresh out the womb.
What strikes me about that part of the story is that in 2003, when you were born, your mother, 2003, what's that, 42 years after Brown versus the Board of Education, was still experiencing something in Mississippi, and she hauled tail to Joliet, Illinois?
Yep.
So we're not talking about, back in the civil rights days. We're not talking about back in the 60s or in the 50s, your mother experienced something. She got out of Mississippi in the 80s, in the 90s. She was done with it then. That's what you're trying to tell me and tell us.
Yes, even before then, because she, going back, she did pass when she was 70 years old. So coming back literally in the like how you said, 70s, she realized that this is not somewhere that she would like for the next generation or even her kids to grow up in, knowing that they felt as if less than their counterparts or the ones that make them feel inferior, that they are superior when they are not.
About a lot of people feel that way about Mississippi and hauling tail out of Mississippi. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. That same state is coming after the only African-American congressman in the United States, Congressman Benny Thompson. More on KBLA Talk 1580 in Mr. Crimm's classroom when we come forward with Devon Cameron.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Let's be real. For too long, too many of our students have sat in overcrowded classrooms in underfunded public schools.
But as head of the San Diego School Board, Richard Barrera changed that.
Under Barrera's leadership, student literacy rose from the state average all the way to #1 among major urban school districts. Barrera led the way for smaller classrooms and for teachers to be paid what they're worth.
Barrera funded more counselors and mental health services, and community schools that teach real-world skills for future jobs.
A community organizer who became an education leader to fight for our kids. The only candidate for State Superintendent of Public Instruction,
backed by the 310,000 classroom educators of the California Teachers Association. Vote Democrat Richard Barrera for State Superintendent.
Ad paid for by California Teachers Association Independent Expenditure Committee, not authorized by a candidate or committee controlled by a candidate.
Going to a World Cup match in LA this summer? Ditch the parking stress and ride Metro. With direct service from across LA County, it's the easy way to get there for just $1.75 each way.
You have your vote by mail ballot. Now it's time to vote. Drop it off early at any official ballot drop box. Visit plan.lavote.gov to learn more. Brought to you by the Los Angeles County Registrar.
My mom has decided to learn to paint, and she's good.
My dad's now into creative cuisine, and I've already put on 6 pounds.
Learning new things comes with age.
My mom, she started forgetting my name and what we're talking about.
Forgetting well-known things doesn't. Memory loss may be a sign of Alzheimer's disease. Early detection gives you and your loved one time to plan for the future. Learn the warning signs of Alzheimer's at 10signs.org. Brought to you by the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
In a world full of noise, one station keeps it real. KBLA Talk 1580, where the conversation goes deeper, the voices sound like yours, and the issues that matter most to our community take center stage. Progressive, powerful, unapologetically us. Whether you're driving through the city or tuning in from your home or office, join the public square. KBLA Talk 1580. Your home for talk that enlightens, encourages, and empowers. Listen live on our free KBLA 1580 app, on our website at KBLA1580.com, or on your radio dial at 1580 AM.
Do you owe $10,000 or more in credit card debt or personal loans? With credit card debt at all-time highs, Debt Relief Advocates is urgently notifying consumers of debt relief now being made available, designed to aid consumers with out-of-control credit card debt. Those who qualify and enroll for this relief program will only have to pay back a fraction of what they owe. This is not bankruptcy or a debt consolidation loan. This is a relief program that credit card companies would rather you not know about, as it ends your debt nightmare and saves you lots of money. Consumers owing at least $10,000 in credit card debt or personal loans can now take advantage of this debt relief as the cost of living skyrockets. Debt Relief Advocates has established a relief hotline for you to call to learn what debt reduction you may qualify for, so don't wait. For this free information, call the Relief Hotline at 800-515-4493, 800-515-4493, 800-515-4493.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley drops the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. It's Moving Mountain Mondays. In the next hour, Tricia C.K. Hoffler, attorney for the Hoffler firm, an Atlanta-based law firm licensed in Georgia, Florida, Virginia, the District of Columbia, and Pennsylvania, will be our very special guest to talk about a number of things. Our athletes, what should they be doing in the era of Jim Crow? We'll also be talking about the voting rights decision and its broad ramifications for social, political, and economic progress for African Americans in the next hour. In this hour, however, we are still in Mr. Krim's classroom. Mr. Krim, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show, and thank you for bringing Brother Devon Cameron to our show. Devon, I have a question for you. Brother Cameron, listen, what are your generation and members of your class saying about the political culture, saying about the political climate? Is it changing the trajectory of any of your expectations? Are you guys about to join the social justice movement as a result of what's taking place?
As in banding with my course of African American students, I do feel as if we are politically exhausted from the cabinets of positions that we have in office right now, and starting with the president and the ones that follow him in the same mindset that we do have. And we feel as if that with the head of the snake that's in office right now, that is hive-minded. And if you don't agree with how he feels now, and this comes from a general statement of how we all feel, that you will be outcasted, blackmailed, thrown to the side, removed from your positions, like how many have been, or pretty much castrated from your ability to talk against, or pretty much give chastise or fuss on the issues that he has brought upon us. But we are banding together. We try to do for the greater good, and to continue to do that. And such so we host things like when the elections was coming around, to go back to that, when the elections was coming around, pretty much all of the Black RSOs on campus, which is registered student organizations like mine, was posting about elections, posting about where you can go to vote, and then posting how to make sure that you are okay to vote in said McLean County, where ISU is, because many of us don't come from Normal, Illinois, or Bloomington, Illinois. We come from Chicago, Chicagoland, the suburbs of Illinois, and the vast majority of us came to here to get the education of what we were promised that we deserve as our counterparts. And with that being said, we do feel that it is a power and it is our justice to then serve for the ones that were not able to have the power in voting. And that's what we try to push forward. And this does impact not only minds, but some of the same classmates that want to achieve higher goals in higher education that might not be able to because of the lack of resources and funding that the government gives to us, and such as educational issues and barriers that are now put against us just because of the color of our skin or the areas and neighborhoods that we do come from. And then limits things and the dreams that we do want to achieve, and such in healthcare or in law or in examples of things like that, plethora of it, more.
Ernest?
Yes, I think what's amazing about what Devon is doing is, for me, I was a history teacher, social science. He is socially conscious and aware, politically conscious and aware, and he is going into the medical field. And that means a lot to us right now in our community when you think about the health disparities. When we say we need all hands on deck, it means that we need everybody in every professional career wise to be aware of the issues we face so that they can contribute to providing a more equitable society. And I also want to speak to the fact that with Devon, what we see is a culmination of a brother who met his community more than halfway. He was in my classes, but he was always making sure he connected with me after class, getting involved in the BSU. But he was also proactive in making sure that after he graduated from high school, that he was still around a circle of brothers in a professional field that could help guide him in any way possible. We're talking professors, we're talking other educators and folks who work at local colleges and things like that. So he's the one in our group chat who's often proactively saying we need to get together. So for all the parents out there listening, we have to make sure that even beyond your own household, that your children are in communities of brothers and sisters who can push them and ensure that they reach that next level and surpass us all eventually. Jesse, you're muted, brother.
I'm sorry, Ernest. I apologize for that. Listen, I'm wondering if there were other students in your class who share the sentiments and the same feelings as Cameron on this question of consciousness.
Oh yeah, there were a multitude of students. We could have another segment on something like this. I think the issue that some of my students ran into that I became aware of was the fact that after high school, we did not have a lot of programs in place to hold our students accountable to ensure that they continued on that path. I will say, in fact, there's a close friend of mine, a brother named John Lucas, who has a program called Step Into the Light, where he mentors kids to ensure that they are on the right track after. And I think that's often the biggest barrier for a lot of kids is after I graduate, what's the next step? So it's an accomplishment, but we have to make sure that they're able to have a bridge to the next level of their life.
Ernest, I think I'm going to ask Brother Cameron for the final 3 minutes if he can offer his generation and our listeners a word of hope. We have about 3 minutes, Brother Cameron, until the top of the hour. Can you share with our listeners a word of hope?
I feel as if no matter the boundaries or no matter the circumstances that you might face within your community, or the ones that feel like that it's pretty much out of reach, or there's no hope, or these feelings of, and you just have to reach out and grab them. That you don't have to put fear, that you don't have to put the self-doubt nor the social insecurity in totality of it. And that these traits that you do have, that you have been building for generations on, that were passed on to you, is only to grab onto those things, and such as diplomas, and then such as skills outside of even school. Like if you're going into trades, or if you want to become a plumber, if you want to do different things in such a way that you will help your community, there's no need to feel as if you cannot. Because I'm a product of my community, and such as people that put their effort in to make sure that that I will make it out of the circumstances that was put against me, and that they take the blow for me, and that so I can succeed. And I just have to put that back out there with them, that you are not alone, and that we must band together for the greater good.
Brother
Be a
Cameron,
little delusional at that too. Believe that you can do whatever you want to.
no truer words have been spoken. Brother Cameron, thank you for being our very special guest today.
Thank you so much for having us on.
Look forward to seeing you back again. Ernest, thank you so much for Moving Mountain Monday.
Thanks again for having me, brother.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. When we come forward, attorney C.K. Hoffler is going to join us. We're going to talk about our athletes and ways in which they can join the protest. Also, this coming Friday, we will be testing for the very first time our call-in show, 833-SHO-WJJJ, 833-SHOW-JJJ. That's 833-746-9555. Looking forward to taking some of your calls. This coming Friday, we'll be testing our new equipment. More on KBLA Talk 1580. Attorney C.K. Hoffler when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Americans are protesting for voting rights in Selma, Alabama, amid Republican efforts to eliminate Democratic majority black districts across the South.
You see, we have seen this before, where some people in black robes try to deny or take away our rights.
A rally was also held in Montgomery with Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Black Senator Cory Booker among those attending. Louisiana's proposed new congressional map is now headed to the House after passing the state Senate 27-10. The map would give Republicans a 5-1 edge in the delegation and eliminate one of the state's 2 majority black districts. And the League of Women Voters is joining other civil rights groups in suing over Tennessee's new congressional map. The lawsuit says the map fractures Memphis' only majority black congressional district for partisan and racial gain and was rushed through with little public input. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Recall 67A mobile appointments are now available in your area. We come to you quick, easy, and under an hour. Complete the recall to get $500 plus a warranty worth thousands. Schedule today at CummonsRecall.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The voting for the NBA Most Valuable Player Award should be another wake-up call for American basketball players. International players are dominating the NBA and are no longer on a different level than American players. They have caught up and in some cases have passed up the U.S., which for decades had a patent on developing the best basketball players in the world. Oklahoma City star Shai Gilgeous-Alexander of Canada was voted MVP for the 2025-26 season. The top 4 vote-getters were international players: Denver's Nikola Jokic of Serbia, San Antonio's Victor Wembanyama of France, and Lakers star Luka Doncic of Slovenia. Doncic finished the season leading the NBA in scoring. The past 8 NBA MVPs are international players. It's time for high school, AAU, and college coaches to figure out what they're not doing to keep up with the international game. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
You have something to say, and we want to hear it. KBLA Talk 1580 is engagement radio, not outrage radio. A place where your hopes, your frustrations, and your ideas are welcome 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Real talk, real people, real Los Angeles. KBLA Talk 1580, the station that sounds like the city looks. Tune in on your AM radio dial at 1580. Download our free KBLA 1580 app or listen live on our website at KBLA1580.com.
Unapologetically progressive.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. We have a very special guest in this hour. And before I get to Attorney C.K. Hoffler, who from my perspective is the Constance Baker Motley of this generation, I want to opine for a moment on the quiet part out loud. Every Democratic president since 1965, Carter, Clinton, Obama, and Biden, have had the Voting Rights Act protecting African-American voters in the South. That act was on their side since the passage of the VRA. While we are presently focusing on midterms and a potential congressional majority, how do Democrats get to 270 electoral votes in 2028? That's the long game. Without the protection of the Voting Rights Act and with Jim Crow-style voter suppression, including new forms of poll taxing like at-large elections, gerrymandering, voter ID laws, passport requirements, mail-in ballot confusion, inaccessible voter registrars, separate and unequal state and county restrictions, ICE and U.S. troops potentially harassing voters in the 2028 election. How do we get to 270 electoral votes in 2028? Is there anyone doing the math? Remember, the presidency is not a popularity contest. And remember, in our system, the most votes don't win. For each majority-minority district that is dismantled, there is a corresponding electoral college vote that in that red state is likely to end up in the red column. This is the system that Donald Trump says is rigged. From the nation's inception, the Electoral College is a rigged system against minority voters, Black, Hispanic voters, and others that do not have their own representatives in the House of Representatives in Congress are part of the electoral count. Trump believes he was deprived of the most electoral votes in the 2020 election, and minority voters and the Voting Rights Act of 1965 deprived him of that victory. Remember, Trump's insurrectionists disrupted and forced their way into the capital of the United States for the electoral count in 2020, when they attempted to stop the count, and the Supreme Court just changed that math. The electoral counts math has just changed. The most electoral votes win. If the election in 2028, for whatever reason, is thrown into Congress, a Congress we may or may not control, we would potentially be looking at a Tilden-Hayes compromise. A Congress run by MAGA determining the outcome with a Bush v. Gore style Supreme Court, determining the constitutionality and the legality of the maneuver. The last thing America needs is a popularly elected president who loses. Our candidate for president must win both the electoral vote and the popular vote for it to be a convincing victory, and therefore we need to win some red states. This system of injustice must be confronted nonviolently so that every American can understand what is at stake and why it must be confronted now. Mass education must be the goal of nonviolent confrontation. We're doing a lot of marching, Attorney C.K. Hoffler. We're having a lot of protests. But I did a little reflection earlier as I introduced our guests on the difference between the marches in the 60s and the marches in 2026. In 1965, after James Bevel at the funeral of Jimmy Lee Jackson recommended that they lead a march from Selma to Montgomery, and they walked out of that church, and those 200 state police officers beat that crowd to try and keep them from organizing to keep the local Marion community from lynching James Orange. James Bevel called for the Selma to Montgomery march, with the full expectation that the same police officers who beat them just a couple of weeks earlier in Marion, Alabama, would show up on the other side of the Edmund Pettus Bridge. It wasn't just a march. It was a confrontation. And it was a nonviolent confrontation that the entire world got to see. When the students at North Carolina A&T sat in on February 1st, 1960, they weren't just sitting in at a lunch counter. They knew they were going to be spit upon, coffee would be thrown at them, that they would be called names. It was a confrontation. And they knew how they were going to respond to that confrontation. They wanted to embarrass America. When Dr. King was killed in 1968, the first march in Memphis, Tennessee, turned out to be violent, and Dr. King was not happy with that. He returned for the second march, and it is for the second march that he wanted to be nonviolent. It cost him his life. Today's marches are wonderful. I don't want anyone to say that I said that they weren't, CK, but I do want to say this. They're not confronting anybody. You have to confront ICE with the march. You have to confront the president with the march. You have to try and get into the White House and be denied access with the march. You have to go to the point of the problem. You have to surround Mike Johnson's office and his home if necessary. There has to be a confrontation, but nonviolent, because we don't want harm to come to anyone on either side. And it is the drama of it all, Attorney Hoffler, that matters to the national narrative about our being denied our basic rights. CK, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. We have about 1 minute before we come forward, but I certainly wanted to say hi to you.
So good to be here, Jesse. So good to be here.
I'm so honored that you're here. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. Our guest is a lawyer's lawyer. She represents clients all across this country. And as the head and chairman of the board of the Rainbow Coalition, she has played a role in significant civil rights events over the course of her legal career. She's known as a super lawyer. Used to work for Willie Gary, a very close and dear friend of the late Johnny Cochran. She's a lawyer's lawyer of the type of Constance Baker Motley. More when we come forward with attorney CK Hoffler. She has a lot to share with us about what Black athletes should be doing and what we should be doing in this very difficult climate. More when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, host of The Voice of Reason, weeknights at 7 p.m. here on KBLA Talk 1580, with a personal invitation for you to join me and Insight.me as we present The Healing Box, live at Inglewood's world-famous Miracle Theater, Saturday evening, May 23rd at 7 p.m. Look, I understand your attachment style has been running your life like a rogue algorithm, and nobody has had the courage to press pause. Until now, Dr. Bakoya McCall and yours truly are curating a night where clinicians, spiritualists, and an all-star panel of Black woman healers like Dr. Shalonda Sunshine Crawford, Dr. Jashana Johnson, and spiritualist Precious McGill will join some amazing spoken word artists and the legendary comedian Louis Dix to diagnose, disrupt, and heal your relational wreckage in real time. Listen, bring your trauma. As a matter of fact, bring your baby mama. No, bring your testimony. And if you're still texting your ex at 2 a.m., baby, you're not just invited, you're the target demo. Tickets are moving fast, so grab yours at themiracleinglewood.com before your dating history gets flagged as a pre-existing condition. That's themiracleinglewood.com. We'll see you there Saturday, May 23rd at 7 p.m.
On top of home and auto, Progressive protects your boat, RV, and motorcycle so you can explore the unknown.
Actually, we just take the RV to the same campground every year.
Well, maybe you can catch your own dinner on your boat.
Oh, we can actually get pizza delivered there from this brick oven place we love.
Will you at least try a new topping?
Honestly, probably not. We kind of have a go-to order.
Fine. Just bundle home or auto insurance with your outdoor vehicles with Progressive and stay protected when you go, I guess, where you've gone before. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Not available in all states or situations.
The joint will be jumping. Ebony Repertory Theater, in association with Big Street Films, brings you one of the most beloved musicals of all time. Tony Award winner, Ain't Misbehavin'. The soulful, swinging celebration of the music of Fats Waller. From the rollicking to the romantic, this show is pure magic, full of the songs that defined an era and the voices that'll make you forget everything else for a night. Foot stomping, heart stirring, unforgettable. Don't miss Ain't Misbehavin' at the Nate Holden Performing Arts Center, starring Lettucey, directed by Ren T. Brown. This is the night out you've been waiting for. Tickets are going fast, so don't wait. Grab yours now at ebonyrep.org or call the box office today at 323-964-9766. Ebony Repertory Theater, bringing the culture, keeping the legacy alive.
Ain't Misbehavin' runs May 21st through June 8th at the Nate Holden Performing Arts Center. Get your tickets now.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Folly drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA 1580. Tricia C.K. Hoffler is the CEO of the C.K. Hoffler firm, an Atlanta-based law licensed in Georgia, Florida, Virginia, District of Columbia, and Pennsylvania. To date, Ms. Hoffler has tried or settled cases on behalf of her clients worth over $850 million. Ms. Hoffler has lectured extensively nationally and internationally on trial strategies and techniques, personal injury, medical insurance, First Amendment matters, civil rights matters, employment discrimination, opioid litigation, and commercial matters. She is very well sought after in the civil rights community for her opinions, for her thoughts, and for recommended actions. CK, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
So good to be here. I'm going to call you Congressman because that's how I refer to you, really.
I appreciate you, CK. CK, let me ask you a question. This is a very perilous time for our people, a very perilous time for our country. While we may be focused on our representation, the consequences of striking down Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act has enormous consequences for the future of this republic. CK?
It does. That opinion in Louisiana versus Calais, you got to look at it in conjunction with some other devastating opinions. We know about, Shelby County versus Holder, which dismantled, a lot of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. And we're talking about dismantling, not elimination completely, but dismantling. And the reason why that was so important, Section 5, was the pre-clearances. There are a lot of states, particularly the southern states, that discriminated overtly against Black folks in voting. So there were these pre-clearances that were put in place. So when you dismantle that in the Shelby County case, that was a big issue, big problem, and a real hit to the Voting Rights Act of 1965. So then you fast forward, and there were a couple of other opinions in the middle, but then you fast forward to Louisiana versus Calais, where basically we see this dismantling of Section 2, and that goes directly into the redistricting and basically allowing minority communities to be represented by people of their choice. And so this is a very perilous time, like you said, Congressman, for so many reasons. But what I want to remind people is on some level, all politics are local. So it's going to boil down to what's happening in a particular state. I live in Georgia, and in Georgia, there's a Voting Rights Act that's on the ballot. But in Georgia, the legislators, this is one of those very, very conservative states too, from my standpoint. When you get outside of the Atlanta metropolitan area and get outside of certain, places in Georgia, you're really, really talking about a very conservative state. So places like Georgia, we know places like Alabama, Tennessee, and Louisiana, of course, and a lot of the southern states have they are in the process of completely eliminating certain congressional seats. And it's not just about the federal seats, even on a local level, eliminating minority representation. That's a net effect. Why do I say it's dismantling versus elimination? Well, you can still file lawsuits because that's what it's going to take for there to be change. File lawsuits under Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, but it's just more difficult. You've got to show intentional discrimination. And as we all know, that's very difficult to prove. So we're seeing the disintegration, we're seeing the dismantling, we're seeing people who will be divested of rights from the way I look at it. But that doesn't mean all is lost. You know, Congressman, your dad always said we keep hope alive. We've been in this place before. We just have to use different strategies to overcome and to move ahead. You talked about protests. We're always talking about nonviolent protests. But when I think of these young kids today, many of them have not had the benefit of civics in high school. Remember that? Remember when people were taught about civics, the 3 branches of government, how they interact? Now, granted, what's happening here today can make one believe that there's one branch of government or one branch controls all branches of government. I think a lot of the young folks, I was listening to some of your guests earlier, are really, really rattled, disturbed, disgusted, and feel very annihilated spiritually by this current administration, a lot of young folks in our community. But what I like is that they're not giving up. We have to give them, those of us who've been around for a little longer, a way of surviving and thriving despite the oppression that they feel. The ICE agents aren't just, we know this, they're not just going after supposedly whoever they're supposed to go after, because they've never been going after the people they're supposed to be going after. They're impacting people in our communities, in Black and brown communities, people who are U.S. citizens, who are born here, who don't have any issue with immigration status or anything like that. They're also being impacted. So when you combine that with what recently happened with the Voting Rights Act and feeling like we are being disenfranchised, we don't have the power and the ability to fight the way we could before, with just the regular old bad, sad things that are happening by a MAGA-inspired administration, not just on the federal level, but locally as well in many states. That's leaving our young folks feeling as though they don't have that much hope. But we have to give them the tools, Congressman, and explain to them what they need to do. So fast forward, I now have an NIL practice. And because both of my sons played, I think like you, played college football. They played at Power 5 schools. I have one that's playing right now at Georgia Tech. The other one is graduating, is going on to law school. But because of that experience, I created an NIL law group. We have 7 partners, and we represent college athletes. We help to negotiate their contracts. We help to sensitize the families to the issues involved with NIL, name, image, and likeness. For folks who aren't familiar with the term NIL, y'all are familiar with how a lot of college athletes are being paid millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars, because of and they should be paid money. I don't have a problem with that, for their skill on the field, in the sport, men and women. So the question becomes, with all of this money that they're being paid, college athletes have always had the power and the ability to bring about change.
CK, let me ask this question. For those of you who may not know what CK is specifically talking about, college students, namely high school students entering college, who play at the collegiate level, can now use their names, their images, and their likenesses, and they can be paid for what they bring to the colleges and universities in the NCAA. Which means some of our young athletes are making, for the first time in their lives, they're 18, they're 19, they're 20 years old. Some of them are receiving a deposit in their personal accounts every single month, $100,000, $200,000, because of the sponsorship that's represented now at the collegiate level. There is a movement, CK, for these athletes to reconsider, with their tender minds, many of them coming from lower to middle class to poor backgrounds. They are now wrestling and being asked to wrestle with, do I go to the Big Ten? Do I go to the Pac-10? Do I go to these, the Big 8? Do I go to these schools or because of political representation, or because of the way we're being treated in terms of our faculty members not being hired, should I go into the portal and choose to go somewhere else? I mean, it's a really, really tough situation when, if you will, Joe Jackson had a lot vested in Michael and them brothers getting out of Gary, Indiana. And now we're saying, Michael and Joe and Jermaine and Jackie and Tito and Marlon, we want you all to hang around for a civil rights cause, hang around Gary a little longer. And the truth of the matter is Joe wasn't having it. CK, how do we reconcile the two in this environment?
It's tough. It's tough. You've hit on the key issue. But see, for a lot of these kids, they've got multiple options. You know, my son had 54 Division I offers, full scholarship. They will have a lot of options. So when they have options, part of the consideration can be, and I submit should be, but it starts with talking to families. Is my son or is my daughter going to be comfortable on this campus or in that state?
Good point.
If you're in a state that says you can't consider DEI, you can't teach Black history in public colleges, and you're going to a public college, as is the case in Florida, can't teach Black history, no DEI programs, there's gonna be a problem with Black student unions, organizing, all of these things. Is that the right climate for my son or daughter to be in? Now, granted, when you're in these elite programs, athletic programs, you're kind of removed, from what's going on versus the other Black students or minority students on campus. But it is important for the families to consider that, and some families do. But like you said, all the money that many of the families in these are getting paid, it's a game changer for so many in our community, especially in lower income or disadvantaged communities. So they may not be thinking about, whether I should go to Alabama versus, they're thinking about who's going to pay me the most for my skill. Because one thing that they understand, and if they don't, they need to understand, is it's not a question of if they will get injured. It's only a question of when they get injured and what's going to happen. I always say the Lord giveth with NIL and the Lord taketh away on some level. Because if there's not financial literacy, if there's not literacy on a lot of issues and thought processes, when the injury or a moment, maybe it's not your best year when you're playing, when these things happen, then we see the dismantling of this very lucrative opportunity for some of our kids. And we also see some of our kids, unfortunately, not even graduating from college because they got injured. And so there's so many layers of this, but it starts at exposing and educating the kids and their families to some of the issues and how, as athletes, they have power. This is no longer $1 billion industry. It's $1 trillion industry. And these athletes, most of them are African-American. Not all of them, but most of them, large numbers of them. So just imagine a situation where these students would start making decisions based on what's happening. I mean, there were students that did that, and that's how the Confederate flag came down in Mississippi. It was the students that said, I don't feel comfortable running the field and pledging allegiance and all this kind of stuff when I see this Confederate flag. That's what propelled, in some of the states, that's propelled them to get rid of those flags. Yes, there was litigation, but the real deal was when a lot of the athletes started complaining about that, the Black athletes. So the power's there. And I know on the other side, these athletes are saying, yeah, but look at what happened to Colin Kaepernick. And he was a pro. He just he just kneeled. And look what happened to him in terms of his professional career. He wanted to play. He may have gotten paid in other ways, but he wanted to play. And he was blackballed. So I think it's tough to ask they're 17, some of them, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old to take on political issues. But by the same token, we know during the era of George Floyd, when everybody was doing that, many of the football players at different schools started taking on different positions and started saying, look, we're not going to come to practice if this is what you all are going to do on campus. If y'all allow people to protest. So they have done it, but it's not en masse.
I'm saying to myself right now, CK, that parents coming from these disparate circumstances who are trying to direct or provide some basis for making a decision for their children in school, that they need an advisor like you, someone who's connected to the movement, someone who's connected to the politics, someone who understands the totality of circumstances before you just sign your name, put on a hat, and say, I'm carrying a football or I'm dribbling a basketball for somebody for this team or for that team. Parents need to communicate with someone of your caliber who knows this history, who knows the consequences of being an African-American athlete in a deep Southern state where you better not be seen as an athlete walking down the street holding that white girl's hand without consequences in this environment. That's where we are, and these kids need to hear it, and they need to hear it now. They may not have needed to hear it 2 years ago, but they have to absolutely hear it now. CK?
Absolutely. Let me just tell you something. I've talked to football players who said, when they're playing football, everybody loves them, cheers, 100,000 people at a game. But during the week when they're going to class, they feel like second-class citizens because that's how the students and the administrators and the faculty people treat them like second-class citizens. And in many instances, these kids are the ones meeting all the budgetary requirements for the entire school because they are elite athletes. You see, so you're absolutely right. They need to hear it now. They need to understand that now, because when the stuff hits a fan, when they don't have a great day, all those cheers stop because you are the flavor of the day, the minute, maybe the month, possibly the year. It doesn't mean you're going to be the flavor the next time around. And all that money you get, maybe sometimes you got to pay some of it back because maybe you didn't have counsel to advise you on what you're signing because you just saw the dollar signs. Look, I'm not blaming the kids. I'm not even blaming the families because a lot of times the families don't even realize because when the kids turn 18, Congressman, they don't have to inform their parents of anything. Okay. Parents don't have access to their grades unless there's a waiver. Same thing with NIL, same thing with any contract. So you're absolutely right.
I'm Jesse Jackson, the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. We have the best lawyer in America on our show at this hour. We're talking about athletes and the political climate and why they need some good, solid advice along with their families. More on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Some evidence will be suppressed in Luigi Mangioni's New York State trial in the alleged murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson.
Therefore, those items found in the backpack during the search at the McDonald's will be suppressed.
A judge ruled the search of Mangioni's belongings at a Pennsylvania McDonald's was unreasonable, including a loaded handgun magazine and passport. Black Martinsville, Virginia Mayor Elsie Jones will remain on city council after a circuit court judge dismissed a recall petition against him on Friday. The judge ruled the group behind the effort did not collect enough signatures. And Washington, D.C.'s top federal prosecutor Jeanine Pirro is promising a tougher response to teen takeovers. She plans to hold parents responsible when their children commit crimes while crediting Black Mayor Muriel Bowser for creating the city's emergency youth curfew. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Recall 67A mobile appointments are now available in your area. We come to you quick, easy, and under an hour. Complete the recall to get $500 plus a warranty worth thousands. Schedule today at CummonsRecall.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The voting for the NBA Most Valuable Player Award should be another wake-up call for American basketball players. International players are dominating the NBA and are no longer on a different level than American players. They have caught up and in some cases have passed up the U.S., which for decades had a patent on developing the best basketball players in the world. Oklahoma City star Shai Gilgeous-Alexander of Canada was voted MVP for the 2025-26 season. The top 4 vote-getters were international players: Denver's Nikola Jokic of Serbia, San Antonio's Victor Wembanyama of France, and Lakers star Luka Doncic of Slovenia. Doncic finished the season leading the NBA in scoring. The past 8 NBA MVPs are international players. It's time for high school, AAU, and college coaches to figure out what they're not doing to keep up with the international game. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Where the overlooked become unmissable, this is KBLA Talk 1580.
brothers and sisters.
In a world full of noise, one station keeps it real. KBLA Talk 1580, where the conversation goes deeper, the voices sound like yours, and the issues that matter most to our community take center stage. Progressive, powerful, unapologetically us. Whether you're driving through the city or tuning in from your home or office, join the public square. KBLA Talk 1580, your home for talk that enlightens, encourages, and empowers. Listen live on our free KBLA 1580 app, on our website at kbla1580.com, or on your radio dial at 1580 AM.
Unapologetically progressive.
Let's be real. For too long, too many of our students have sat in overcrowded classrooms in underfunded public schools.
But as head of the San Diego School Board, Richard Barrera changed that.
Under Barrera's leadership, student literacy rose from the state average all the way to #1 among major urban school districts. Barrera led the way for smaller classrooms and for teachers to be paid what they're worth.
Barrera funded more counselors and mental health services, and community schools that teach real-world skills for future jobs.
A community organizer who became an education leader to fight for our kids. The only candidate for State Superintendent of Public Instruction,
Backed by the 310,000 classroom educators of the California Teachers Association. Vote Democrat Richard Barrera for State Superintendent.
Ad paid for by California Teachers Association Independent Expenditure Committee, not authorized by a candidate or committee controlled by a candidate.
Lots of places can expose you to identity theft.
Oh no.
That's why LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second for threats to your identity, which is way more than anyone can do on their own. If we find anything suspicious, like new loans or changes to your financial accounts, we alert you right away, all through text, phone, email, or the LifeLock app. Get the alerts that could make all the difference. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code NEWS at lifelock.com. Terms apply.
There's a lot of uncertainty in the world right now. Things are changing fast and no one knows what comes next. Times like these make you realize just how important it is to be prepared. That's where My Patriot Supply comes in. They're America's #1 most trusted resource for survival food, solar power, water filtration systems, and more. Go to preparewithamerica.com to unlock a special offer that'll help you get ready for whatever comes our way. Go to preparewithamerica.com to see the special offer right now. That's preparewithamerica.com.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Folly, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
Junior Show on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Tricia C.K. Hoffler. In 2019, Ms. Hoffler received the President's Award from the Caribbean Bar Association and was inducted into the Gate City Bar Hall of Fame. She was also elected the chairman of the board of the Rainbow Push Coalition, the first woman to ever serve in that capacity. In July 2019, she was elected president-elect of the National Bar Association and became its 78th president in 2020. Rated a super lawyer in 2022, Ms. Hoffler also received the Randolph W. Thrower Lifetime Achievement Award from the Georgia Bar. CK, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
So great to be back. Great.
CK, I see you're negotiating this NIL space. So why don't we start from the beginning? Share with us, if I'm a parent and I've got a promising athlete, how do I reach you? How do I consult with you? How do I share with you? I'm worried the hell out of my daughter. I'm worried the hell about my daughter, who's going to be an Olympic skier or a gymnast, or I'm scared as hell about my son and his prospects for college and the NBA. How do we get in touch with you, CK, and how does that process work?
Absolutely. Well, I have a toll-free number, 888-CK Hoffler. So 888-CK-HOFFLER. That's the first way, reaching out to my office. You can also look at the NIL Law Group's website, www.nillawgroup.org. That gives you all of the bios of our 7 partners, of all of us, and it gives you more intimate knowledge of what this is. But if you really want to talk about it, I talk to families all of the time, and it's free. It doesn't cost anyone anything for me to talk to them because I want to educate. Now, if you choose to hire me, that's different. But I'm very, very happy to talk to individual parents and their children, groups of kids. I do it all the time. I talk to coaches because I'm on the side of the athlete. I'm not interested in representing the colleges. I'm not interested in representing the NCAA. I'm interested in representing the most vulnerable people in that system. I think people have it twisted. They think because the athletes are getting paid all this money, they're in a position of power. Well, they're in a position of power so long as they're on top and not injured and are on the field or on the court or whatever their sport is, and they're performing at top levels. But let me tell you, as soon as you have a bad day or a bad year, or you're injured, or you enter the transfer portal and something doesn't go right, things change dramatically. And I have to remind people that, yes, people are there for their athletic scholarships and everything, but they're also there to graduate from college, to get a college degree. Empowerment. It's important to be empowered, to understand there might have to be, and there will be life after that sport. So what are you going to do? NIL money can be a game changer in terms of setting up these magnificently talented kids for life after their sport. Because with these sports, at some point they transition out of them. So what do you do? How do you set up? Wouldn't it be nice if you had a little nest egg that you invested some of that money, that $100,000, $200,000 you're getting on a monthly basis? We know that you may have to send money back home. We know that you have a lot of obligations. Some kids come to college with families already. They have children when they come to college. We get that, but financial literacy and talking to people who can help you get to them could be a game changer. So I think that they need.
Give me that number again. How can we reach you?
www.nillawgroup.org, or you can call at 888-CK-Hoffler. We're also on Instagram, on Twitter, on all of that. I do infomercials, if you will, on social media, just so that people are updated on the latest and the greatest, so that when these kids are negotiating, they need to understand a few basic things. And that's what I do on a weekly basis, quite frankly.
I've been talking about the glass ceiling a little bit for some of our most capable and qualified nurses, doctors, surgeons, who, even though they've spent 3 decades in the sciences before they enter into their professional careers, they are still treated, even though they're the best of who they are, in the hospitals. Are you really the surgeon? Are you really the primary care physician? One lady has 2 PhDs and a medical degree, and the nurses question, does she belong in the emergency room? And clearly she's a specialist and does. And I can only imagine, CK, that as a Black woman in this NIL space, where, first of all, you're a woman, number 2, you're a Black woman, this is a space where many of these young athletes have been approached first by someone other than us. Absolutely. Traditionally, someone who doesn't care about them, but sees dollars, or they see at the combine, they see buck. You know, they've reduced them to a deer running in headlights, or something that is, something they would call slaves on the plantation. Book. Right. I'm selling a book. Yeah. You have to take into account the cultural sensitivities and sensibilities of families and show the care and concern, and then deliver on that care and concern, which makes your practice in that space very unique.
Well, I have to tell you, I don't even look at people as other people as competition. I look at what I can do, because yes, I've always been in a space where not many people who look like me have been. If you're a trial lawyer, if you handle complex matters, do commercial litigation, and some of the great opportunities I've had, then you will find yourself that you are sometimes the only person who looks like you. But you still got to fight, because just as you said, all those professionals are challenged. I've represented doctors who are saving someone's life on a plane when they say, are there any doctors? And before they can save someone's life on a plane, the airline stewardess are looking for their credentials, because they don't believe that these Black men and women are actually doctors, and a passenger is about to die. You see, so I understand all sides of that, just like I understand the athletes, and that's what we bring to the table, and the willingness to fight, because we're trial lawyers. So yes, it's important to negotiate the contracts. That's what we want to do, and to position these athletes to put them in the strongest position possible. But if stuff gets raggedy, then sometimes you need someone to fight for you. If the NCAA is not going to give you an extra year of eligibility, but they're giving other people extra years of eligibility. If you are at an HBCU and you're seeking to enter the transfer portal and you have issues when you enter the portal, once you're in the portal and you think it's kind of race-based or whatever, sometimes you need advocates who are going to be there, because some people aren't interested in you until you made that play. But getting to the point where you can make that play, you need advocates, and you need advocates throughout the process, whether it's us or someone else who can be straight with you and who can tell you what's really going on. And finally, there is a reason why this president is interested in placing limitations on NIL. Not one, but 2 executive orders, a committee, an athletic committee being formed that had not, I think Condoleezza Rice was on that committee. I didn't see near athlete of color on that committee. Saban and all those people were on that committee, but how about the athletes or people who represent the interests of the athletes? Didn't see any of those people on that committee when we convened a meeting at the White House to discuss NIL. $1 trillion industry. There's a reason why the executive branch is heavily focused on this. And please understand that this is not about giving children in our community a boost so that they can do better. It's about placing limitations and taking away. And I don't know if some of our athletes are understanding that that's what's at play. And they need to.
When we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580, I have just a couple more questions for CK Hoffler. And I'd like her, again, as is expected of all of our guests, to give a word of hope in the final 3 minutes towards the top of the hour. I'd like to ask her about why our marches are not working. And I posited the thesis earlier, CK, confrontation was at the end of the marches that worked. And then a narrative came from that nonviolent confrontation that changed the minds of the American people. I'd like to hear your thoughts on Donald Trump's interest in the Electoral College strategy of destroying the Democratic base in the South so that he and future Republicans can have more votes. And then her word of hope. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. No one more qualified to bring us our word of hope in the next hour than attorney CK Hoffler. More when we come forward right here on KBLA.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. The BLM Center for Black Power is a hub for Black activism in the city of Los Angeles, a standalone nonprofit affiliated with Black Lives Matter LA. The venue is home to live events, meetings, and organizing drives for Black-led community-based organizations. It is also the base of operations for Black Lives Matter LA. Built on what used to be a nuisance property owned by an arms dealer, the BLM Center for Black Power is in the heart of Leimert Park and has opened its doors to everything from youth organizers to toy drives to film screenings and community town hall meetings. To make a donation or make a request, please visit blmla.org. That's blmla.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
My name is Cynthia Mitchell. I've been an emergency room nurse in Los Angeles County for 25 years. I've been there through every fire season, every outbreak, every earthquake. Every time Los Angeles needed us, the doctors and nurses of Los Angeles County showed up. And right now, I'm seeing another disaster coming. Trump's cuts to Los Angeles County's healthcare system are a public health crisis in the making. Medi-Cal, public hospitals, disaster preparedness are all at risk, but we can stop it. Measure ER fights back against these cuts. For a half a penny, we keep emergency rooms open, care within reach for working families, and doctors and nurses serving the communities we love. When you vote yes on Measure ER, you're not just voting for health care, you're voting for LA. Vote yes on Measure ER by June 2nd.
Ad paid for by Yes on ER, Restore Healthcare for Angelenos, sponsored by St. John's Community Health and Health Justice Action Fund. Ad committee top funder, St. John's Community Health.
Let's be real. For too long, too many of our students have sat in overcrowded classrooms in underfunded public schools.
But as head of the San Diego School Board, Richard Barrera changed that.
Under Barrera's leadership, student literacy rose from the state average all the way to #1 among major urban school districts. Barrera led the way for smaller classrooms and for teachers to be paid what they're worth.
Barrera funded more counselors and mental health services, and community schools that teach real-world skills for future jobs.
A community organizer who became an education leader to fight for our kids. The only candidate for state superintendent of public instruction,
Backed by the 310,000 classroom educators of the California Teachers Association. Vote Democrat Richard Barrera for state superintendent.
Ad paid for by California Teachers Association Independent Expenditure Committee, not authorized by a candidate or committee controlled by a candidate.
Did you know about 1 in 3 people with plaque psoriasis may also develop psoriatic arthritis, which causes joint pain, stiffness, and swelling? Does this sound like you? Listen to what it sounds like to be a million miles away. Tremfya guselkumab, taken by injection, is a prescription medicine for adults with moderate to severe plaque psoriasis who may benefit from taking injections or pills or phototherapy, and for adults with active psoriatic arthritis. Serious allergic reactions and increased risk of infections and liver problems may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or if you need a vaccine. Imagine being a million miles away. Explore what's possible. Ask your doctor about Tremfya. Visit Tremfya.com or call 1-800-526-7736.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer. Are you hungry for news that matters to you in the African-American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you. Or hop on the digital wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget to join the party on Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC for behind-the-scenes access and sizzling updates. No more FOMO. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
What if your rooftop could earn you money every year? With LADWP's Solar Rooftops program, you can get solar panels installed and maintained on your home at no cost and earn up to $900 a year. That's up to $18,000 over 20 years. There are no upfront costs, no credit checks, and no annual fees. Plus, you'll help power Los Angeles with clean local solar energy and reduce reliance on fossil fuels. Make your rooftop work for you. Apply today at LADWP.com/solar rooftops.
Hi, I'm Fred Martin, founder of Compton Kids Club. I just want to talk about the authenticity and tell y'all about my homeboy, Tom Steyer. Tom is a rock star. When I met him, Tom gave a grant to schools in San Francisco. All the kids were on probation. We were flying instructors for 2 years to come and help those kids doing performing arts and turning their life around. Some of the kids that he supported, they've graduated from UCLA. Let's fast forward. Tom is in schools in Compton, hanging out with the kids in the piano classes. Brother Tom Steyer hangs out in the studio with us. These are the seeds that he's planted. This has nothing to do with elections. What's coming out of his mouth is not a campaign speech. It's authentic. And when he say he walks away from a business because he want to do his values, he ain't making that up because he's running for governor. This man is real.
Ad paid for by Steyer for Governor 2026.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley drops the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. I'm honored that CK Hoffler is our very special guest in this final segment of our show on Moving Mountain Mondays. CK, I got to get right through a few questions before leaving you with the final 3 minutes of our show for your word of hope. CK, I posit the thesis that the difference between our marches today, which are largely commemorative, are without confrontation. Selma to Montgomery, a confrontation. A confrontation at the lunch counter. A confrontation with the freedom riders in the South. It wasn't a bus ride. We weren't just taking a tour across the South. It was a confrontation. And the buses were burned and people's lives were lost and threatened in that process. A confrontation. No King's March, large in size, no confrontation. The marches in Alabama this past week, supportive, did everything I could to get there. We were represented in Alabama as an organization, but no confrontation. CK, why are marches not working today?
You know, I think you're making an excellent point. I think it's because we're in a different time. So the confrontations that we saw and that we grew up with in protests, the time that we're living in now, mostly driven by social media, its organizing is very different today. And so young folks who back in the day were the ones very, very engaged in marches and protests on a nonviolent level are not as engaged today. But if they are engaged, we have to remember they're driven by social media. They're driven by different things than we were driven by. So in the past, when there was confrontation, that's because there was an agenda before a protest and there was follow-up after a protest. We're not seeing an agenda, a well-coordinated agenda. At least I'm not. I'm just looking at it. You know, I'm not being critical of anyone. I'm just saying what I'm not seeing. And the follow-up after, because you have to have a plan. That's number one. Number two, before, many things were centered through the church. So we saw that the churches were very involved in mobilizing people, teaching. We're not seeing that as much today. We're not seeing our organizations coordinating on the same level. We might see individual organizations, but based on where we are today, we need massive coordination, messaging. Different organizations, yes, can have a different focus, but when we're leading to protest, there's got to be massive coordination, a game plan, and follow-up. Follow-up. What follow-up is there going to be? Let's use social media as effectively as we can in organizing through social media or helping us with social media. I think those are the things that we're not seeing. And then finally, I think people are afraid. Of course, people were afraid in the past too. They were afraid because they could be arrested. They could have been killed. They could have been, dogs were sicked on them. But I think people are afraid because the climate in this country is one of fear. ICE, whether it's ICE or whomever, there's fear. I was listening to these young kids before. They're feeling more intimidation. But I just want to remind them at every time in history, people were feeling intimidation. They sat there, and that's the confrontation, Congressman, that you're talking about. So I have hope that it's going to be better and become more effective, but we have to have a plan. Can't do anything without a plan. And a follow-up to that plan. You can't just talk without a plan.
Well, I think once we get arrested, we need CK Hoffler to bail us out. That has to be part of the plan too. But some of us have to risk getting cracked on our heads in that process. Now, let me just say this. I do believe that the base of the Democratic Party in the South is Black. I've served in Congress long enough that when a white Democrat came to me from the South, I knew almost inevitably they were going to be voting with Republicans in Congress. So I know you're a Democrat in the South because you tell me you're from a Cleo Fields' district, because you're from Benny Thompson's district. I know you when I look you in your face that you are the base of the Democratic Party in South Carolina. When you tell me you're from Jim Clyburn's district, I have no idea what kind of Democrat you are as a white man who says, I'm running as a Democrat in the South. All right, do you have 10 generations of Democrats all the way back to the Ku Klux Klan, all the way back to the plant? What are you saying to me when you say you come from 10 generations of Democrats in the South? So I get it. I see this, however, when Trump calls Georgia for 11,700 votes, he needs a state to get the electoral votes to get him over the hump. Trump dismantled the Voting Rights Act to destroy the Democratic Party in the South. CK, we only have a couple of minutes for a word of hope. And because I know you're that special, I want to give to the top of the hour to you. CK, a word of hope for our listeners.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you for all that you're doing. That's the hope. The word of hope is for these young people to get re-engaged. I am very encouraged and inspired by these young college students that are becoming more engaged. I am very inspired and hopeful where I've seen more coalitions involving our churches that are out there and are becoming that source of information and training and education and being more engaged. I'm also more inspired that I'm seeing people who are not afraid to stand up, even in this very difficult climate, and say enough is enough and are organizing. We were very, very upset when this president got into office. And some of us really stood on the sidelines because we were upset and disgusted. But now I'm seeing people re-engaging. And so, Congressman, I am very, very, very hopeful that this is going to turn around, but we've got to keep our young people engaged and focused. We really must. They've got to play it forward. They got to take it. They got to take the mantle, but we've got to give them the tools to succeed.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You've been listening to CK Hoffer on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. It's Moving Mountain Mondays. More on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward. Love you, CK, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Thank you. Love you too.
Bye-bye.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.